Hi everybody. Today I am going to show you how I've been making my glass rings. I first make stringers of all different designs and shapes and colors before I make the rings. And this is a simple twisty stringer I'm going to make in this video. And as you see in the front of my marver there, where I just picked up that rod of purple, there's all those little pieces of stringer, and those are all going to become rings eventually, and they're all different twisties and colors, and I got dichro in there, so it's whatever design you want to use to make your rings, whatever colors, whatever designs, it's all up to you. But in this video I'm going to show you the stringer first, and what I'm doing is I'm applying a thick purple stringer on top of a green ball of glass, and I am using boro glass here. This can be done in soft glass or in boro, but boro I think has a little more you're able to control it a little better, so it's a lot stiffer, it takes a lot longer to heat, but when you get down to the little rings, it's really it's a lot more control you have over the glass, so it's really not too bad, even on a small torch, to be able to heat the stringers once they're done. And so what I'm doing here now is I am taking an orange rod and I'm putting it right in the middle on the top of the purple, and I didn't have a stringer, as you could see, so I'm using the full rod. And that is why I'm honing it down to a point. I'm melting it down and making a point at the end of my rod, is so that I'll have a small section to attach, and I can pull out a skinny stringer from the rod as I'm laying it down. So you just pull a little faster and a little stronger to get a skinnier like stringer off of your rod, instead of having the full width of the rod. So it is possible to do that, and I do it all the time because I just don't happen to have all the stringers around that I need when I'm in the middle of something. So anyways, so I'm laying on these stringers, and now I sped up this video a little bit because boro does take a lot longer to melt, and I didn't want you to suffer through all that. So what I'm doing here is I'm just making sure that orange rod on top of the purple is centered with some of the rods, and tucking the ends down in at the bottom before I really start to heat it. So make sure the position is all right for your stringer, and then I'm going to punty up to the rod with that same orange so I can pull out a twisty. And this twisty, it's going to be shorter than what I'm normally making for my rings, just for this video. I think I get 3 ring sections out of this, and normally I get like 7 to 10 sections. I make a bigger mass of glass, but it takes so much longer to melt that I'm just doing a small one here. And so I'm melting it all down. You want to make sure you get all those colors melted in and blended, and you have a nice, football shape before you start pulling. And what I do for these twisties, especially with boro, with soft glass, sometimes I do it and sometimes I don't. But I heat one end, the outer end, or the end I want to pull out, which in this case is near my green rod that's there. I'll pull that, I'll heat it more in that section, and I'll start pulling it out from there. And this way I can control how much twist I want. For this ring, I want a lot of twists. I want a lot of variance, and so I want it tightly twisted. And so in this way, when I heat a little bit at a time, and I just keep moving the flame back as I twist and pull out, I have a lot more control over how much twist I'm going to use. And so that's what I'm doing here. I'm slowly pulling out. Boro is kind of slow, and twisting it as much as I want as I pull out. And I just want to try to get the stringers even all the way across, but if you're making these, you really only have to have the one section that you're going to use for any particular ring even. So if you're pulling out a stringer like this, you can have one section skinnier and one section fatter, and it'll still be fine because you're only using a little, maybe about a 2.5 inch section to make your ring. And so it doesn't have to be totally consistent all the way across. You just want that ring section to be pretty consistent. And so I'm almost done pulling this out, twisting and pulling it out. And I think I'm almost done. And I'm going to go back because there are a couple of sections that were a little fat. And so I'm going to go back and even those out a little bit more so that that area is going to be nice and even across the ring. And then I just melt off the one rod. And there is the stringer. So it's green, purple, and orange. Or it'll look that way when it's done. And so now I'm going to jump to, the rod is cool now, the stringer is cool, and I'm going to cut it into the sections. And so I have a little thing on my right side that's about the size of the ring length, so I know which size to get. And I really don't measure these per se. I know the size approximately for a ring, and it's about 2.5 inches, and I just try to vary it. And you could just vary by millimeters and get various sizes, because the ring sizes just do vary by millimeters, even fractions of a millimeter, to get different ring sizes. So I just try to vary it so I have a variety of different sizes. And so I'm just going to take the one stringer, and I have my ring mandrel there. That's what I use to shape it at the end. It's a stainless steel ring mandrel. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to pretty much cold seal this glass right in the middle to make like a T with my ring section. And I begin by heating up one side at a time, and I'm going to curve it around until I can make those ends meet. And this shape, it's not going to be totally, perfectly round or anything. Far from it, really. And but I just want to get those sides curved around, and I try to, smooth them evenly around so I don't get, thick spots or thin spots. And so that's why I'm trying to gently heat it just till it's movable so I can bend it around, because I don't want any kinks in the glass. I don't want bulges in the glass. And so you try to heat it gently enough so that you don't cause any thick or thin spots along the ring. And it's much harder to do this with soft glass, and that's why I'm doing this with boro. Soft glass, it's a lot harder to control a little stringer like this. You have much more give with the boro because it does take more heat to actually move something out of sorts. And so I'm bending these around, and I'm getting it really close. And I want to make them touch. And so I'm getting that one closer to the other. And then I'm going to just touch them together like that. And I'll squish it a little bit just to make sure they're touching. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a little stringer of clear, and I'm going to actually pull, some glass from the one end to the other end. I want to make sure it is totally touching, because if it's not touching and you start to heat that section, it can actually pull away from each other instead of actually melding together. And you don't want that, because then they'll ball up on either end of your stringer, and you're not going to have a ring then. So make sure they're actually touching together. And this is very important for boro glass. Soft glass, pretty much if they're touching, they're going to be somewhat fused, and you should be okay. So I'm fusing that glass, and I'm actually stretching it out on the ring mandrel. It's kind of a squish circle now, so it's kind of hard to get on that mandrel. But I'm actually stretching out the back, and then I'm going to punty that. And then I'm going to work on shaping the rest of the ring. So you want to clean off any, I had a little, scuzz or something on there. You want to make sure you clean off your punties for that. And then I knock off the front punty. And now I'm going to heat the rest of the glass. And we'll shape the ring. So as you can see, it looks kind of like, a can opener or something. It's not perfectly round at all. And so I'm going to round it a little bit, round the outside anyways, a little bit on my marver there. And then I start stretching it on the ring mandrel and get it a little more round. So I'm rounding it again because I don't want any of these sections to become fat or thin spots. I'm trying to keep it even on the outer diameter. It is kind of difficult sometimes. So, but I think it's pretty even. So now I'm heating like the whole ring except for right at the punty. You can see how it's getting really glowy. And now I'm going to really stretch it on that ring mandrel. And then I lift it and turn it over. It's kind of hard to see, but I flipped it over. So I turn it over and get both sides. And see, now I got a pretty much round ring there. So now I heat it also and make sure it's even from the sides, because sometimes it'll curve, from side to side. And so I want to make sure that area is flattened also. So it's a nice flat ring. I'll do a little more rounding. I have a little bit of, like a kink turn at the bottoms there from stretching it. I'm going to get it one more glow. Sorry, my hand's in the way. One more glow with it and flip it. Put it on the ring mandrel. And that looks like it might be about a size 7 from what I could tell on the ring mandrel. Not precise. It's not marked or anything. And then pretty much I have a finished ring. And so all I have to do now is get it off that punty there and melt off any nub or any mark that might be in it. If you have any clear glass left on there, you want to clean that off. In this case, I didn't really have any extra glass stuck on there, so I don't have to worry about it. But you want to make sure to remove that. Oh, and I just dropped the ring. Yeah, I do that a lot. So just heat it up and get that end. And then I will, just to make sure it's totally round still, I will put it on the ring mandrel again, push it down, and then tap it off. And pretty much there's the finished ring. Maybe one more time. Just to make sure it's all shaped properly. And there you have it. Thanks for watching.